And we're back. Uh, Next up, uh, we need to go ahead and. Oh, wait. Did that conclude the first pass? Uh,
think it
I
did.
think. Yeah, I think I went too far. I shouldn't have gone ahead and done that scene. I was just like excited to uh, set that up. But the first pass, I think, should have finished right when we did the first battle. Um, so, but let's go ahead and start with the focus. So, if you want, I can do that, um, or if one of you uh, wants to be the lens first, that is totally fine with me.
What is that?
Oh, so what the lens does is first off that they would set what the focus of this sort of round of stuff is, and by that I mean you have a thing that all of the periods and events and scenes need to sort of be themed around. Uh,
So basically the theme of the next round.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And the person who's the lens uh, gets to do extra stuff. They'd be able to, in addition to doing setting a period uh, or event, they could also do a subsequent event or scene within the what they've set up. So they essentially get to do two things as long as the second one is under the first. They aren't required to, but they can.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the focus creates the first scene, event, whatever thingy,
Yes,
and
yes,
the last. So the focus gets two goes,
yeah,
Mhm.
whereas everybody else only gets one. And within those two goes, you can again create two things as long as they're overlapping or whatever.
yep. So would you guys be more comfortable if I did it, or do one of you want to?
I think go ahead and start.
Okay. Um,
Okay, and my kitty is whistling, so I'll go get
okay.
him.
Uh,
I'm better visible now, right?
yeah, yeah, that's better.
I mean, the quality of the webcam is still crap, but there's
But
more light.
there's more light for sure.
The light actually comes not from within the room, but from the street lantern that's standing outside of my window.
Oh, really? Okay. Uh, so I think what I think rather than the necessarily going uh, uh, linearly, I want to kind of take a look at uh, some of the post-war changes rather than uh, see what the post-war changes are rather than looking at the war itself. Um,
Did I miss something?
no.
Whoa.
Okay. So I'm gonna say the focus is gonna be post-war changes to folk. society. Now you're still free to set stuff, uh, you know, earlier than this. I mean, you can do something like an event pre invasion that
Somehow relates.
that somehow relates to the post war changes that you know that like conforms them or something.
That explains how it originally was, so we know how it changed or whatever.
Yeah. And I am going to create a new period. And this is after the negotiations, but before the Crimson Council. And I'm going to call it I'm going to call it a larger font size, and peacetime cultural shift.
You have the grid turned on?
I do. The thing is, the grid is useful for placing the
Yeah. True.
And I'll go ahead and have an event.
Don't you do that last? Did you say that, or has that you go first and last?
Yeah, no, but he goes first, and then he can do two things, and he can go last and do two things again. So he
Okay.
Yeah.
technically create four things,
Okay.
except that within one turn, the two things have to be nested.
Yes.
But I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
The post-war negotiations and the peacetime cultural shift, are they clearly different things, or are they more of the same thing? Because like the negotiations, at least the way I created the period, was not purely just negotiations, but the whole settling into a certain rhythm kind of thing. So they might just be the same period, except differently worded. It could be something
Okay.
different, maybe.
Maybe the post-war negotiations are the process of getting there, and the cultural shift is when they are settled in, but in a new place, in a new way, but already, basically settled in.
Yeah, but then a name like the New Order or whatever might make more sense if you wanted to have it as a separate thing specific. It's up to you, Brad.
Okay.
Just like explaining what I meant with post-war negotiations and that it might encompass a cultural shift.
Okay. Well, rather than going back and changing that, especially because it's sort of a rules thing. I don't want to change the scope I can't change the scope of what you're putting down, but
Always meant quite wide. That's what I
okay,
meant. It may not have come across to you guys as such, but it was because I think like if it was purely negotiations just at that, then it would have been an event and not a period. So my goal was always to have it a little wider, and
okay,
I don't know how you mean yours. It's up to you if you mean it as something separate than that. But
okay. Well, I would certainly agree that negotiations would you know involve the time after the actual negotiations where the direction of that shift is set. Um, but I think how and I'll revise this if it's a problem. Um, but how that uh, how that shift plays out after it's been decided amongst the people, I think should be a separate time period. Um, is that cool with you, or is that does
yeah,
that think that's
the only thing I still want to say is like just so that it's clear, like negotiations aren't just literally negotiations.
yeah,
There's also you know learning the language from the other people or whatever
sure,
other stuff that happens and all the like not even all the stuff around them. Negotiations is metaphorically as well
Yeah.
as literally.
How I
okay,
would imagine it is post-war negotiations in our world is a post-war country. You know, the generation that was actually a part of this war is the this era of post-war negotiation, and their kids and the next generation is the peacetime cultural shift. So basically, they live in the aftermath of what their parents created and went for. At
okay,
least that's how I see the two periods. I don't know if you guys
sure,
agree with the
That makes
metaphor
sense.
or the
okay,
I don't know the
Like
word.
the post-war negotiations is the people who fought in the war, and then the peacetime cultural shift is their children. It makes sense.
Something like
yeah.
that.
So I agree with all of that, but I kind of want to move on because
Yeah.
yeah, the this phase isn't supposed to be a negotiation. It's supposed to just be taking turns, just going
No,
ahead.
it's never meant as a negotiation. Just like clearing something up.
Sure. Okay. So uh, the I guess the event is going to be uh, an intensification of magic cultivation. And what I'm going for with this is that the the folk culture is sort of spreading away from where uh, the humans are, and and focusing much more on uh, on that cultivation process. That like there's like a diversification of what sort of uh, magic producing plants are planted and bred, and they become more specialized. It's sort of a reaction to this to seeing technology uh, brings a new mindset to it, so that it's while it's still working with the land uh, to bring about magic, it's or working with the land and living with that magic. There's more of a some of the human mindset is seeping into how they go about it, and it's uh, pursued more assertively and in a more organized fashion. And that's me.
Okay.
Okay. I would like
And I'm gonna call that light. Sorry. Go ahead, please.
I would like to create an event. I'm not sure where. I think maybe in the post-war negotiations, which is the banning of the old religion, where the folk have some kind of a religion and the people are like, no, we believe in the sun god. You guys gonna have to believe in the sun god now.
What if we want to create two events for a period? Is that possible? Okay. You're muted, by the way. I saw you.
Sorry. Yeah, we totally can.
Because the layout is not set up for that, and I was wondering.
Um, yeah, that is definitely an option. Um, and I feel like I have a pretty clear picture of the event, but was there anything more that you wanted to add before you move on to Demi?
I don't think so. I mean, I could say something about the old religion maybe if you'd want more elaboration, but
It's up to you.
I think the old religion is something that involved being close to nature and a lot of rituals. And the new religion, as described in the book, would be the religion of the sun god.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay.
Okay. I would like to add an event to the post-war again, to the post-war negotiations, which is basically what I imagine led to the intensification of magic cultivation. So the invasion happened and the whole war thing happened. So the folk was basically forced to use magic for that for war reasons. um, and I imagine um, that would make them not focus so much on the magic itself of cultivating it and keeping it, preserving it, but on using it. So parts of that magic would be lost, and or not lost, but it would start waning and losing its vigor and stuff, like when you don't take care of a plant well enough. So that would be, I think it would, yeah, that would be my event. The what should we call it?
So is it a waning of magic itself, or just
magic itself.
Okay.
Because the folk doesn't put in the effort into to taking care of it. Maybe that was one of the reasons why they had to accept all the terms of the humans, because they wanted to go back to keeping the magic alive so it doesn't die and they don't lose it. So they would be forced to accept anything just so they're able to preserve what's left.
Okay. All right. And was there anything else you wanted to add to that?
No, I think I elaborated enough.
Sure. Okay.
You need to write down if it's.
Oh yes.
Light or dark.
And that needs to happen for the
I
other ones
imagine
as
it
well.
would be dark.
Same for the banning of the old religion.
Okay. All right.
Do the peacetime cultural shift as well.
Oh. Yeah.
We have a light period with 2 dark events.
Yeah, that was I just noticed.
Oh, I mean.
Yeah. I mean, you can totally do that though.
Yeah, it doesn't have to set the tone of the whole thing, of course. These exceptions from a light period. Definitely lighter than the one before.
You know what? I'm actually going to call the cultural shift dark. So we continue this theme of having the events opposite to the period they're in.
We need one more light period. Then we would have light, dark,
Yeah.
dark.
Maybe a period where no. Let's go. So hard not to break the rules of this game. This is so strict.
Well, but I think it helps focus things. Those limitations, sort of spur creativity, or can. They don't necessarily. So I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do another event. Under Rise of the Crimson Council. And I need to. I need to look something up really quickly, so I hope it doesn't take too long. But
else we can talk amongst ourselves. Make plans to rebel against the game. Oh yes, let's rebel against the Iron Throne.
Okay.
Since nobody has done that before ever.
Okay, and I think the event is going to be Earth of Tokamak. And Tokamak is actually a Russian word having to do with uh, nuclear fission, but it sounds sort of like a Native American word. And this is an individual on the Crimson Council um, that has taken magic to or just his abilities are sort of on a new level. It's like the potential for mass devastation. But I don't want to define exactly what he or she can do. But there's just sort of I just want to bring in uh, that idea of like something as dangerous as nuclear power uh, uh, in the hands of the folk. Like they're the first ones to have the potential to escalate to this level. Um, and that is dark on dark.
Every once in a while, a period comes where the events are dark and the period is dark itself.
But I think I'm not going to do a scene because had that extra. I had that extra scene that we did about the battle. Um, so next we choose a legacy.
Yeah, so what's this whole legacy thing? I didn't get that.
Okay. Let me pull that up. So the player to the right of the lens um, looks back over what happened during this focus and picks something concrete that endures from it, that sort of carries forward and colors events thereafter. Let me see. Okay, now I've been doing it wrong in the past. Uh, so they have an example that betrayal is not a valid legacy because it's a generic concept, but the betrayal of the sea tribes works because it's something specific that happened in history. And once that legacy is picked, that same person makes an event or dictated scene about it. Um, so, and let me see. I want to.
And you say that the legacy carries on. Do you mean that future focuses or events that are to the right of this, whatever it is, need to somehow carry the weight of that, or is it more of a okay, yeah, now this that, or is it really just okay? So this player gets to create some kind of event or scene that has to do with this period, and that's all the influence it has on the game.
Yeah, I think it's sort of flexible. Like it's that legacy is out there, and can color things, but it's not like not the same as like the focus. The things afterwards don't have to be you know, based around it.
More of, hey, this apparently was a pretty big thing in history.
Yeah.
Would you say that, let's say, the creation of the alphabet would be a legacy, and that can play a role in future events, or it may not?
Sure. That would be totally valid. And so I'm thinking that and there's some flexibility here because doing this online, who's to the right and left isn't like completely clear. Um, but I'm thinking,
Using portraits up until now, right? So that just
yeah.
I am to the left of you, and Demi is to the right.
Okay.
You're to the right of Brad, and I'm to the right of you.
That depends on how you look at it. From our viewpoint, we're sitting like
Exactly. Um. So, okay. So what I'm proposing is that Jimmy, you pick the legacy and the senior event that comes from that, and then Hasa, you'd be the next lens. Does that sound good to both of you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct me if that contradicts something written in the book, or the rules of the game or something. But I was thinking a cool legacy would be someone from the folk giving the first power to a human somehow. Or would that be a legacy thing, or would that be an event?
Yeah, is legacy is legacy picking one of the existing events, or do you create a new legacy?
It would be a new. You would have a new event that encapsulates legacy. Uh, so you certainly could have exactly what you said, the giving of the first power, or you could have as legacy the humans getting powers, and the event being uh, a specific human getting the first one. Either way is fine.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, the second way sounds cleaner, I guess.
Okay.
But again,
Okay.
isn't that given from the book, the humans gaining the powers?
Um.
Am I being redundant here?
No, I don't think so. You're just
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially since you can shade the event. I think you're contributing something very important to uh, the history here. And is that during post-war negotiations, or what period is this event happening?
From the book, it says that a new generation was born when this happened. So only kids born here get powers, not. I mean, this could obviously be an exception, so it's up to Demi. But the book says that en masse, like if it's somebody who got it and kept it a secret, then it could totally be whenever. But en masse, it was the next generation born. So either post-war negotiations or peacetime cultural shift.
I have a cool idea to tie it to the event of Brad's, the intensification of magic cultivation. So they tried create magic inside a human.
Okay. Oh, and I should mention that it can be a narrated scene rather than an event, if you wish.
No, I'm curious to see you guys play it out, or us three playing it out.
Okay. Well, it can't be a full played out scene. I mean, we can do that afterwards, but for the legacy, it has to be a narrated scene or an event.
Okay. Well, that requires some improvising.
Well, I mean, in and of itself, the way you described it, it's already
A scene, I guess.
an event. Well, I mean, it could be a scene, but you can
Yeah,
also just keep it at that and call it an event.
Yeah, actually, it would be an event. It's kind of it's similar to the intensification of magic cultivation, but it's not. It doesn't have to be a scene inside that event, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, let's call it an event where they try to harness,
Cultivate magic inside humans.
Yeah.
That would imply that.
Okay. Inside.
Around you.
Okay. Inside a human or multiple humans?
Let's say A. If it was multiple, it would have spread quicker, I think.
Okay. All right. And Hassa, the lens passes to you. So first, pick a focus.
Okay. I think it kind of like extends on what we've been talking about, but I would still like to make it a separate focus, and that would be magic. Full focus would be magic.
Okay.
And for magic, I want to create a pre-invasion event that
Okay. So this is an event during the. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
and the event I think goes back like pretty far in the past, but is the I guess the discovery and initial cultivation of magic. And I would like to say that magic was first discovered in cobalt, because cobalt is the material that humans use that has a strong power source. As a strong power source, and that can also carry powers and things like that. So I think that if that was somehow tied to magic, I think that would be suitable.
Okay.
So the discovery of magic in cobalt.
Okay.
Turns out cobalt is radioactive.
Alrighty. And did you want to have? You don't want to?
No.
Okay. So Dimmy. Yep.
Okay. So we have focus magic.
Do you want some dice?
Sure.
Okay. How many?
4.
Okay. Ooh. There is a egg,
Mm-hmm.
a Snake lady?
A what? Oh, snake
Snake
lady.
lady, the woman with the snakes on her head and the snake tail.
Medusa.
Medusa, exactly. A small human and a big human. And what looks to be either a bacteria or a weirdly formed blob with a face.
Okay then. Oh, I have an idea that. Okay. Can I can add a scene, right?
You can totally do a scene as long as it's under any of the events.
I want to add a scene to the event Hasa just created.
Okay.
If it was, a long time ago, I imagine very long time ago. I imagine Cobalt coming from kind of like oil comes from, dead bodies of dinosaurs and stuff. Cobalt would be the kind of like the same deal. It's the remains of some creatures that lived, infinite time ago, and magic was first discovered in the egg of one of those creatures.
Okay. What question do you want to answer?
Oh, right. How 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 did magic and folk become one? And
Should probably say how something like how the egg, like you should probably mention the egg in there somewhere if you want it to be a part of the scene.
Yeah, and remember you can load the question as much as you want. So you can have you can specify all sorts of stuff within that question if you want.
okay, this is difficult.
Yeah. I mean, this is it's definitely the hardest part of Microscope is coming up with good questions. Um,
Are you allowed to ask for suggestions if you're stuck, or is that also not allowed?
I think it should be okay.
Well, I'm asking for suggestions.
Maybe something to do with how the how did the folk use the egg they found, or why did they use it in a certain way if you want to load it more or something like that, or
Something like, what was the egg, and what what was the egg, and why did the folk decide to
how about how did the folk discover magic in the egg?
that kind of sums it up.
Okay.
And I'm going to do what Brad did and come up with two characters. They would be those two teenagers, teenager folk people, who were basically, up to no good, exploring the area, just looking for some fun, and stumbled upon on a dare, climbed a mountain or something, and found a nest with a single egg in it. and that's where. How does it work again? You guys pick a character?
So you specify a number of characters that have to be in the scene.
Up to 3.
Yeah. And then I would pick the first one, then Hasa, then you.
Okay. Let's say one of them is this, trying to the show off, basically. The one that is always wants to always be the best at stuff when other people especially when other people are around. And the other one is someone who ended up being friends with him, even though normally they wouldn't be, I guess. Some weird circumstance led to them being friends. But the second one is kind of quieter and keeps more to himself or herself.
Okay. And did you want to set the scene now, or wait till we pick characters? There's probably an order you're supposed to do it, but I think that flexibility in that is probably not a problem.
Do it afterwards, since then you know all the characters if you don't specify them all in advance.
That makes sense.
Well, those would be the two characters in the scene, and is that what you meant?
Painting the scene like him saying like, oh, there's a group of this and a group of that, and it's on a mountainside, the egg, like you said, or whatever.
Yeah. Those guys would be out in the open, in the middle of nowhere, just looking for something to do to spend the day, I guess. And on a dare, one of them would have, both of them would have climbed this mountain and or a big hill or something, and there they would have found this nest with a single egg in it, and the thing that laid the egg is not around.
Okay. So I'll play the more reserved guy, and well, go ahead. I'm thinking of a name.
If possible, I would like to play the egg.
Sure.
Then I will be the egg.
Okay.
Being all eggy.
Egging intensifies.
I might even be an egghead.
Wow. I guess that leaves me with the other guy. So in this case, we won't have the time that you did last time, or whatever it was. I think.
Okay.
I mean, I guess in some way I'm playing an object, so that in some way is time-ish, but
yeah.
Well, I mean, you can choose whether maybe the egg can speak.
yes,
I
can.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know until I speak or not.
Alrighty.
I'll be Veep.
Okay. I'll be.
I was just reading weirdly formed blob with a face and then Veep, and then my brain automatically thought like, that's an appropriate name for a weirdly formed blob with a face.
I'll be Eagle.
Cool. An eagle. What kind of folk are you? Do you have like humanoid? Do have a weird skin color? Are you fire creatures? Do you have deer horns on your head?
I imagine I'm something like a satyr. Beepis.
Okay. And I think that Eagle is sort of a sort of a wizened puka. So, okay. So sort of in this case, uh, a bird man. Um, and you know, uh, and old. Although he, in his youth he used to be sort of a trickster, but now he's jaded. So okay, so we've just come across this egg. Um, okay.
Egg, how big are you?
Uh, so as we come across it, and V probably just like rushes forward. Eagle's all be careful there, Veep. We don't know if the thing that laid that egg may be returning.
Then maybe we should just take it and then leave before it returns.
Well, that's the thing. If we took it, we might get away before it returns, and that in itself might be a tragedy. Or we might not get away in time, and we could be attacked.
Why don't you live a little? Nothing bad is going to happen.
I've lived plenty.
And you should. People will go towards the egg without you not touching anybody. Going there.
The egg is about this big, and it appears to be made of some kind of blue material. It's like a lightish blue, like not very light, but kind of in between medium and light blue, and it's very a dull blue color, I guess, very dusty.
Okay. So Eagle will look around carefully to make sure that there isn't something like coming to protect the nest. And seeing that it's clear, he says, "Well, I suppose it should be safe enough, and the others will want to see this. I haven't seen an egg quite like that before, but I have to warn you that there'll be no going back. Once you touch that egg, uh, it'll probably be tainted in its mother's mind, and she won't raise it. She'd just like kick it out of the nest. That's how nature works amongst birds."
Always the optimist. I'm sure it will. You always like to look at stuff and examine stuff. I'm sure that would be interesting for you as well.
That's true. Myself and others would like to see this, as I said. So let's just be, if we're gonna do this, let's be quick about it.
Good, and I'll reach to get the egg.
Okay. Can I specify something about the nest as well?
Absolutely.
So, as you step forward and you might maybe step on a branch of the nest, it falls apart and blows away in the wind as if it's either very old or very rotten or something like that. It's just falls apart. As you touch the egg, you notice that it's very cold. But it's like a spark inside you has been lit. Like you feel some kind of a special connection to this egg, as if it's bonded.
Well, since we decided to run for it, I'll try to not pay too much attention to it, but will be very careful in how I handle it. And climb down the fastest way possible. And
if you pick it up, you notice that it's very heavy. It were being made through and through of stone.
Well then, I wouldn't ask for help. I'll try to act like it's not that heavy, and then carry it.
May I ask something about like your initial specification of the scene? Did that include anything about the egg being from a living creature, or could it also be the egg of like the when something stays very long, it turns to stone, like from ancient history. Like, could it also be something like that?
Yeah. Well, sort of cooked into the game is that since that hasn't been specified, you can specify it now if you want. Like if you want it to be, the egg to be ossified or anything, any detail you want, you can add, as long as it doesn't like contradict something that we've already said specifically.
I wasn't sure since it may have been indirectly implied in like how things were said. So just asking.
Go ahead.
You rock.
Okay.
Yeah, I was carrying it away from the nest. And it would obviously look that it's heavy to ego.
Oh, in one sec, Popsicle 1933. If you're watching right now, thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate it. Very cool.
Bye.
All right. So as we're headed away, Eagle says, "Are you all right, son?" A strange expression came over your face when you picked it up.
No, everything's fine. Vip will lie. Or not exactly lie, but because he's not even sure what's happening, but he won't be too happy about sharing this special egg with us.
Okay. So I think we make it away from the scene, of the nest just fine. And
Doesn't have a parent cobalt creature attack us.
I don't.
And I think shortly thereafter, uh, we come across another of the folk. Uh, and this uh, would be uh, sort of sort of a dryad, someone who uh, lives and is closely associated with a tree, um, but can't like magically meld into it like the uh, dryads of uh, you know may later do, or in fantasy it's more like you could even say a female druid, but who's like connected to a specific tree. Um, uh, and as I approach, Eagle will say, "Hi, Ash. Uh, you should take a look at what young Veep here found. It's pretty interesting."
Is the egg giving out something? Is Veep getting something from the egg, or is it now a stone blue egg that I feel attached to?
You feel. I have so many. I have such important choices to make here right now. So yeah, I'm gonna go for it. So you hear hello, can you hear mine?
I'll answer back with hello.
Do you say that out loud?
Sure.
Or do you think it?
Let's say it out loud.
Okay.
So Ash says, "Hello back," not knowing that you're talking to the egg. And
Egg is smiling.
I'll smile.
okay. And Ash comes forward, kind of looking at the egg curiously, and keep in mind that you guys can narrate for Ash or any new character um, that is brought in.
I'd imagine that Ash touch the egg.
Oh, sure. Veep will let her touch the egg. I imagine, as she touches it, the tree she's one with or a part of. I'm not sure what the expression is. Would start kind of shivering. Not shivering, but the crown would. It's like the wind is blowing, but there's no wind.
And I think she would say, "Oh, well, hello."
Right?
Neagle says, "You already said hello. What?"
You touched the egg, really?
Yeah. Kids these days, I just don't understand.
The egg asks you, is he slow?
Turning back to turning to Ego, and with a big smile. I don't know. Are you?
Am I what?
I would imagine Ash laughing. I told you to
Okay.
touch the egg.
Oh, Ash says I told you to touch the egg.
No, Veep says.
Oh, well, all right. Uh, and Eagle kind of reaches out to it to and he's not like this touching to poke it. He's sort of he runs his hand over it to get a feel for its texture. You know, more examining than just like going, oh, this is a new thing.
The texture feels rough, like stone and cold, and like for a moment, Eagle hears nothing. The egg says,
And like Eagle looks around, and then feels that shiver, and for him it's like a specific way of the wind ruffling his feathers that puts him in mind of flight. And he says, "Oh, well, that's very interesting. Hello there. Oh,
again, this is something you will not see. Like it doesn't actually have a face.
yeah. It's a pleasure to meet you, Egg. Who are you? What should I call you?"
The egg shrugs.
All right. You it's okay. Um, my I do feel something odd coming over me. Uh, maybe we should uh, take some time with this and either uh, talk to some of the others or maybe uh, uh, maybe we should meditate on it or uh, go on a journey even.
Veep will. I have no idea what this is called, but basically jump with one foot and then do this with both of his feet, like jump from one place with one foot and then with the other one, and his hooves kind of making that clickety clackety sound, and say, "See, I told you."
So I like Brad's idea of the ruffling feathers. So I would say that the egg has bestowed some kind of power on your characters. You know, whether your characters discover that or not straight away, that's up to you, of course. But you would be able to do something, including, of course, the dryad as well, that you couldn't do before.
Okay. Well, Eagle says, well, perhaps I should live a little, but, you know, I'm an old man, and this has been, I think, quite enough adventure for me today. I'm gonna, I'm gonna go take a rest and think about what's happened, and I'll see you all soon, I hope.
almost, so concentrated on watching the egg that it's kind of like she's just seeing the egg and absolutely nothing else. She looks a bit obsessed by it already.
Well, I agree, Veep. I think that it should be shared with others. Other people should have a chance to meet the egg.
More friends.
So a little bit later, as Eagle does lie down and goes to sleep, and almost immediately falls into a dream in which he's at the top of a tree, and he jumps off of the branch and spreads his arms, but as he falls, the instead of accelerating into the fall, he slows, and the wind catches him with his outstretched arms becoming wings, and suddenly he's an actual eagle. And he flies about for a bit, and then just has this thought, what a strange dream, and in doing so, starts to wake up, and that process of waking up is doubly strange because there's this feeling of wind on his face, and things just being different. And as he opens his eyes, he finds that he's actually in the form of an eagle. And I'll turn it over to you guys. We could either end there, or if you guys want to explore, what happens with Veep, that would be cool too. Or others.
I get more interested in what happens with Ash. I imagine she literally got obsessed by the egg and lives this kind of I don't know if you remember the moment in Lord of the Rings where Galadriel found out that Frodo has the One Ring, and she got this feeling of I will take it from him whatever that costs, and I will rule everything. So Ash would I'm going to narrate it because I have no idea how to play it out, but she kind of got the idea that to realize this is a powerful thing that she has to have, and got her mind got corrupted by the idea, not by the egg itself, and she would have tried anything to get the egg for herself. It basically drove her mad in a way. I don't know how it would play out, but I just that's a cool addition.
Okay.
Maybe that is the cost for her powers. While all powers come with a cost, maybe her cost was madness. I mean, she would have a really powerful power if the cost was madness. I would just like to add that if anyone were to open the egg or break the egg, they would find a... How is that called when it's a fossilized creature that does not seem alive in any way, but apparently spirit could communicate with creatures.
Okay, cool. So let me see. Yeah. And what do I want to do regarding magic?
You want me to roll you some dice?
Sure. What the heck? 3. 3.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. Skeleton of a dragon or dinosaur or something like that.
Okay.
A mace. And a bubbling cooking pot.
Okay. So I think I want to have I'm going to do an event. And that's going to be an event during the invasion, and it'll be sort of the last stand of the folk, and that's essentially it's not necessarily the last time that they offer any resistance whatsoever, but it's the last time they get together to strike back or defend themselves in an organized fashion. And I think what that will look like overall is that they get together and with the egg and using their magic together, draw out a large design that they use to gather yet more energy, and then it's channeled into striking at one of the towns, and they see it as like lightning hitting from the sky. The humans don't see it, but within just a few days, everybody within the town dies of a strange sickness, and at that point, the folk first begin to decide that they would rather negotiate and find peace than even win, because of the how dire the action was, and because they yeah. And it occurs to me that we haven't been doing light or dark on a whole bunch of stuff.
Right.
So let me see. It more or less in order of when it was laid out. Magic and cultivated inside a human, is that light or dark?
I imagine it's light.
Okay.
I mean, it could go both ways, but I prefer it to be light.
Sure. Okay. And initial discovery of magic in Cobalt?
Light, definitely.
Okay. Uh, the stand, not the last stand. And the scene we just did. Is that light or dark?
I imagine it's light.
Okay. And while the uh, uh, last end of the folk may have marked the decision to try and bring an end to the war, uh, the the stand itself was definitely dark.
Definitely.
Okay.
They intended to be that severe?
I don't think they did. I think they were just trying to fight back, and they thought it would like slow them down, or perhaps give them some breathing room, and it did much more than they had planned. Um. Oh, well, let me move that whole thing down a little. I think next up, Hasa, you can do a double.
Yes.
Um,
I think I'm going to do a single again, or maybe a narrated event, or narrated scene and an event. But I definitely am going to do an event that it takes place in the peacetime cultural shift, and it builds on this initial discovery of magic inside the egg, where this. So I have a question for you guys. How long do folk live? Because I'm not sure if I want to have this happen with either Ash or one of her descendants.
I think that because we haven't specified, and you're deciding something relevant to it now, you get to decide.
Yeah, but I wasn't sure, but I already have an idea because this starting period is, of course, a bit longer, and this was long ago, so it's not in any way recent, so it's got to be her descendants anyway.
Okay.
I imagine dryads living for quite a while.
Maybe they live as long as the tree lives.
Makes sense.
So if the tree still exists.
No, because this was long ago. So it's one of her descendants.
Okay.
Not specifically one of them, but I guess like one of them is the start for the splitting of magic into
Goats.
two streams, I guess, where you know, this is both the have to do with magic splitting as it is a event that will eventually lead to the rise of the Crimson Council, because this is more the splitting of magic in light and dark.
Okay. And this is an event rather than a scene, right?
Yes, this is an event.
Okay.
So the descendant of Lady Ash, like in her descendants comes a splitting of magic, where there's a group that has this whole focus on greed and taking for ourselves and maybe even using it for war, things like that, as opposed to the naturally peaceful tradition. So I guess you could describe it as magic splits into light and dark. And dark specifically being those descendants. But, you know, of course they might have recruited others by present day.
All right. And did you want to have a I think you're saying you didn't want to have a scene under, or do you?
I'm not sure if I wanted to have a scene under that or not. The thing with scenes is they take so long.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's possible to do them faster, especially if it's a narrated scene rather than everybody interacting. But yeah, they do. Even if we hurry, they eat up a bit of time.
I can do a scene right now. If somebody wants to do that later in a later focus, then they can. But I don't have an idea. And I think this. Yeah, I mean, if I have to choose between light and dark, I'm probably gonna go with light because I want it to be neutral. I don't want it to be dark necessarily. It's just a change. It's a shift. Of course, you know, I guess it eventually lead to bad things when the Crimson Council and everything comes from it. But right now, it's just nature of the beast kind of thing. You know, the magic brings up the greed in some of the folk and makes them, you know, and it's not just greed. It's also them wanting to protect themselves and yeah, just neutral. I guess I know that's a bit odd, but
Okay.
oh, you could do both. That makes a lot of sense.
Because it's splitting into light and dark.
Perfect.
Okay.
Oh, that would actually. I'd like to add something if possible. That would actually mean that maybe both of those essences were present in the magic before, but now the light side of magic loses the darker sides of it, while the dark magic loses the lighter side. So for both sides, something changes. Maybe.
Okay.
Like before, the magic was gray, and now it's light and dark.
Okay.
So that also explains why it's good and bad, because the good becomes better and the bad becomes worse.
Now I need to choose a legacy. And I'm gonna say
Were all the other microscope things this like intense in going into morals and everything? Or is
kinda,
that
yeah. Like the first one was like way out there and hard to wrap one's mind around because there's like this uh, huge scale sci-fi thing uh, with uh, all kinds of with like mass minds and uh, sort of the like all of humanity being grouped with a computer into a mass mind and then later splitting back out, and yeah, it was wild. Um, and then I guess the second one was didn't so much go into morality. It did a little. Um, it was a little bit smaller scale. It was another one that was based around uh, a game we were getting ready to play, uh, but it added a lot of interesting things to the world, like these uh, carnivorous plants that grow inside all the buildings, uh, and gave uh, uh, some character and definition for uh, sort of the big bad, and uh, laid out that he has all these clones that are like uh, they're sort of like partial clones that are integrated into the society and are sort of sort of a problem, sort of like humorous fodder.
It seems a very rich way of creating or expanding on a world.
Yeah, yeah. Um, okay, I think the legacy is that the source of magic uh, has sentience. 'Cause, I find that very interesting. Um, and I think that I'm gonna do I'm gonna try a narrated scene. Although I'm gonna try and keep it pretty short.
You can do it long if you want to.
Well, no, I want to keep it short because it's monologuing a scene. Uh,
Oh, I mean, we can just be like, oh, okay, tell us. Just chill in our chairs, drink some water, eat a cookie.
uh, so I think as uh, Ash's descendants uh, like grow grow with their trees into the root into the earth. Uh, they uh, come across where uh, the egg had been lost. Like it had uh, there is some event already in the past that caused the egg to become buried again, even though it was its influence was continuing to spread. Um, and in uh, finding it again after magic has already been, you know, refined. They sought to. Oh, I'm narrating. I haven't even come up with a question. And I think that the question is, how did the split happen within or how was that the split reflected within the egg, or how did it happen in the egg, something like that?
This cultural shift period seems very popular.
Yeah.
It's a pretty interesting period.
And it's pretty specific, so you can go into it with an initial idea, while starting the period pre-invasion is anything.
Yeah.
I have to run to the bathroom real quick.
Okay. That's all right. I'll just be narrating. Oh, this is being a problem. The problem with this black background is that the text is black, so it's hard to tell exactly where you're gonna.
Change the color of the text.
I could.
And I think if you click somewhere first, that might also be where the text shows up. So if you click within the box first, that might mean that your text is going to show up there.
Yeah, it does. I guess I just need to keep in mind that it's not centered. It's what, left justified. So if I should be clicking at the beginning of the box, not the middle. So, the roots of some of these trees come in contact with the egg, and this is the first direct contact in a very long time. And the Ashes brood begin to try and take sort of exclusive control, both to deprive the humans from having magic at all, and to gain power for themselves. And the egg itself fights this, but this new cultivated magic is very powerful. So all it can do is schism, so that part of it is like suborned and changed by the dryads, and I guess this is happening within the Weeping Forest. Hey. And in being suborned, takes on a very dark, bitter, angry character, whereas the part that splits off is much more hopeful and for the first time has an actual agenda to try and bring about like peace and reconciliation. And I'm just going to leave it there. I think that like answers the question. And yes, I'm not going to go and have two different groups talking to each other. So it's sort of like an event, but good enough. It answers the question, so it's a scene.
I like that idea that there's that this is not just a creature of magic, but the creature of magic. What you kind of imply with your event, and that whatever will mess up reflects within this creature.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to call that Split Itself Light. For no particular reason, really. I mean, I guess it could have been dark, but it feels light to me.
Depends who you ask.
Yeah. So, Dimitar, it is your turn to take up the role of the lens and tell us, what shall we focus upon?
Shall focus on human technology among the folk.
Human.
Something I wanted to say as game master is, don't forget that at least Wild Blue also has this kind of superhero and Western mood, which I think is a little bit lighter than what we do right now. I don't think we don't have to focus on the light side, but don't forget that it exists and don't make it impossible for it to exist by how dark you make the story.
Okay.
Not a forbid. I think whatever is there is fine. Just don't forget that in play it needs to be possible for the other part to exist reasonably as well.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of things were driven to dark just by the the sort of the correlation between folk and Native Americans and the history of Native Americans in the West is an extremely dark one.
So yeah, no, I think it's totally fine because it definitely details that part really well, and I think there's lots of interesting stuff in here. So I think that's fine. Just don't turn it into dark fantasy.
Okay.
I'd say.
So that was the focus is human technology amongst the folk.
Yeah.
I bet. My internet sometimes randomly temporarily dies. Did my video die?
Yeah. Well, okay. Maybe you're frozen. I'm not sure. Move your head.
Oh yeah, you're frozen.
You're frozen.
How about now?
Still frozen.
And then I will defreeze again.
Okay.
I think my internet here is fine, but it just occasionally resets. I didn't hear a few of the things you said, so if you said something to me.
Maybe someone is downloading stuff.
Maybe
At
somebody
times.
has internet trouble and they needed to refresh or whatever. How about now?
Ah, good. Okay.
Yeah, I have this idea for an event in the pre-invasion, which basically the discovery that folk are not the only, kind of like discovering aliens.
Not the only sentient beings.
I guess. Finding a piece of, unknown technology. That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Oh,
And I
you
will
could
kind
just
of
call
see
it the finding of technology.
the finding of a bottle.
Okay.
Does it have a message? They didn't float out bottles into the ocean with little pieces of Mozart in it or something?
Nope. They didn't have a Mozart. But how I imagine it is that humans at some point found this new land. So that means that they were probably exploring their worlds before that too. So ships were going here and there, and stuff falls out of a ship or gets thrown. So a bottle fell down or was thrown, and it washed on the shore of this new land for them new. But yeah, and I'm tying an event to it, not an event but a scene.
Okay. Oh, and is the event itself light or dark?
I would say light.
Okay.
A pixie was, just flying around on the shore and saw this weird object washed on the shore, and got curious, obviously, as pixies do, and excited, of course.
Okay. Oh, and what is the question you want to answer?
Oh, right. I had that. I had that in my mind 2 minutes ago. How did finding an alien object? How did the bottle integrate into the folk culture? I guess, or this alien piece of technology.
All right.
So yeah, she was, flying around doing her pixie stuff, and found this bottle washed on the shore, but there was some water inside, even though it had a cap on it, a cork or I don't know what. And she realized that can be useful. You don't have to always go to the river to drink water or to use water. So she brought this weird thing to someone that she knew was quite crafty, and made him do one of those out of wood. So he did, and that eventually, spread out, and then folks started using the bottle, and it got very, it became an art to create bottles out of wood or out of whatever people can. And I would imagine that when even when the humans arrived on this land, they would have noticed, some very pristine bottles, engraved and very pretty, and basically pieces of art bottles hanging from almost everyone's, on their side.
Okay.
I think that's a cool random event.
Yeah. Yeah, and that definitely answers the question. Okay, so I guess I'm gonna do another event. Oh, I lost you both. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Accidentally closed the tab.
I didn't close anything. I think it just reset because
Okay.
it was closing. Am I back?
Yes.
Yep.
You're both back.
Didn't do anything, so that's why then.
Okay. And let me see. Sorry. Okay. Let's go ahead and roll the dice. I guess 3 dice. Um, I mean, I sort of know uh, the effect I'm going for, or I want to do an event in uh, during the rise of the Crimson Council that's positive, but I don't know what. So
How many do you want?
let's go 3 again.
You
The
went
same
to the
three?
positive event? You said?
That's what I was going towards, but what'd you get?
Okay, the first one is a skill in crossbuilding.
Okay.
So that could be pirates or deadly substance or whatever.
Yeah, that could be the Sky Pirates.
Oh, yeah. The second one is a Grim Reaper or something of the likes on a little date.
Oh, okay. I'm just gonna put
But you can
Charon.
say color on the list, of course, if you want to keep it lighter.
I could.
That is why I laughed, because 2 of the dice were like...
Light, huh?
And the last one is a pirate with glasses.
Okay.
But I guess I kind of want to put Sky Pirates as well, so... Sky Pirate with glasses.
Okay. I think that I think the event will be that this is after the Sky Pirates have started uh, raiding the folk for various supplies, and in response, uh, the folk begin to or isolated pockets of the folk uh, begin to craft their own airships, but these are more grown than like cutting down the liftwood or skywood or whatever it's called. They have some of the trees uh, grow into the shape that they need, and they're well. I'll just leave it there and not necessarily say what is done with the these. Although, just as I'm doing this, I'm realizing it's not very Wild West. But I've gone this far, and
It's quite wild blue, though.
okay, yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. There's sky pirates and there's folk, and it ties to the whole how the folk adopt the stuff from the sky pirate. So I think it, or from the other thing. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
Okay. And I will add one thing, which is that the Queendom doesn't yet know of these skyships, and groups of folk are have been talking about whether or not to tell them to share the technique or not, and it hasn't been decided yet. But you guys could go ahead and decide it, or that could still be something that's in the air as we go into the game. Get it? In the air? Anyway.
Depends.
Hasa.
Okay, so for my thing, I'm gonna roll a dice because I have absolutely no clue.
Okay.
Testing. I have something that appears to be vanishing in a puff of smoke. I have a monkey. I have bacteria, or a blob with a face, a hairy, and the Curse of Troy. I'm thinking I could either do something with medicine or with children's toys. Since, it could be also a children's toy.
Sure. Oh.
Didn't think children invaded Troy. I think. But you have to tell me if this is too much of a stretch of your focus, Dimi. I think that the folk and the people together built some kind of a theme park where they used the magic of the folk and the engineering of the humans to together create this place where children can be happy, and I guess maybe in a way also unified, like that the two races, or I guess the folk are a group of races, but that the two sides can the new generation can mix, maybe.
Sure.
And I think this would be in the period of the rise of the Crimson Council, where people see this and they worry about this, and they're like, no, we need to create this as a reaction to the rise of the Crimson Council, and see if we can unify our both sides a bit more in the new generation.
Okay. And is this after the other events, or?
Let me see.
Where in there would you like to?
Can't read it. The birth of definitely after the birth.
Okay.
Grow skyships. I don't know. Let's see. Roll D2. That's a D1.
What do you know? You got a 1.
So it was before the growth of the sky.
Okay.
But after the birth of Okamak. Yeah, I was totally using loaded dice.
Okay. Is joint creation of a park okay, or how do you want me to word it?
Muted.
I can't hear. Yeah.
Hasa, you are.
Oh. So I think the most I don't think it really matters because it's just a quick description. But I think the most descriptive version of a name would be the joint creation of a theme park in reaction to the rise of the Crimson Council. That's quite of a mouthful. These story dice look cool, don't they?
Yeah.
They already created an egg and a theme park.
And a bird.
And a bird.
All right. So, Dimmy, you can do a double.
I think I would do a single, but an event in the post-war negotiations. After after the folk has been driven out, they actually got the right to preserve some of their areas in the Falklands, where humans they're made to follow strict rules about using their technology there. It's basically kind of like those places where you preserve nature. I don't know how they're called. But
Nature reserve.
Yeah, I guess. So it's something like that where folk are allowed to live however they see fit, and humans don't have the right to say something against it, even if they don't follow the right religion or whatever. It's that free of a place. They're not too many and too big, but there are certain areas like that.
Okay. And is this after the waning, or between banning and the waning, or where is it?
Probably after the waning,
Okay.
in reaction to it.
Okay.
We went so positive all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that way there's positive and bad things to it, which all kind of makes sense for the setting, I think. Yeah, there's some pretty nasty stuff, but there's also sometimes good stuff.
Yeah. All right.
Well, the setting is based on a life in general example, so yeah.
And I'm assuming that's light, although, maybe only horrible things come out of this reserve. I don't know.
Maybe.
All right. So I think that brings us full circle, and there isn't really time to do a whole other focus. I don't think. Do we feel like we're in a good stopping point, or I guess we could go ahead and do a legacy to end it?
About this legacy. the legacy of all this new technology.
I have a green ladybug yo-yo.
It's magnificent.
Yes,
That is factually accurate.
I don't know. I think the legacy would somehow be the cooperation that existed. I think since that came forward in quite a few of the examples.
Okay.
But I'm not sure how to specifically phrase that as a legacy or an event or whatever. Maybe the economical cooperation.
Okay.
Specifically of folk and humans as legacy. And then as an event, I think trade would be something. That would be in the peacetime cultural shift, where the folk have actually started trading magically grown items for technology from humans.
Okay. Okay, I'm just going to put it at the end, although that could happen anywhere in there.
It should be more towards the end.
Okay.
Definitely past the magic cultivation inside a human thing.
Yeah.
Probably, or at least, yeah, I think so. Yeah. Ooh, we stopped just in time. We're running out of space too.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be possible to just create more space, but no, yeah.
No, we've only actually done 3 things.
Is that all?
Well, okay. You're supposed to do at least one each. I'm not sure if you're if it's supposed to be exactly one each and that's supposed to be it, or whether you just go on till everybody's satisfied that we've done this a lot. This part of history is well defined. We're at a stopping point. Okay. Well, thank you guys. I had a good time. This was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was kind of intense.
Yeah. Yeah, I was a bit intimidated when I thought it was just going to be me and you doing it, because I've been told that it works well for two, but there's just no breaks. It's just.
Like I asked her yesterday if he was coming or not, and if he would have said no, I would have probably suggested let's bring in somebody random, and I would have asked a random person if somebody wanted to join, so that we would have had 3. But I knew he was going to do it.
Well, I was almost sure that I was going.
Yeah,
I wasn't
almost
exactly sure. But yeah.
Then he was probably going to join.
Well, I'm glad you did. For sure.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So I think unless either of you has like shout outs you want to do, I'm gonna pretty much call it there. I guess it should mention for anybody catching this on VOD. If you like the show, please do hit follow so that you'll know when I go live in the future. And if you're catching this in the near future, I should hold on a sec. Mention what's sure, what's coming up in the near future, which is let me see, on Saturday at I believe 5 p.m. Pacific. I'll be on Encounter Roleplay, doing doing a game with Cord that is going to be called The Sewers of Rethin. And that is all I know about it, really. But I think it'll probably be pretty interesting. I should check it out. That's on Encounter Roleplay on Twitch. And then on Saturday, I'll be doing the usual Taking Waterdeep as well. On Sunday, I won't be doing the Eschaton, but I will be on Eric Vulgaris' channel doing Silent Legions, I believe, which is a Lovecraftian thing. I don't know the details about that either, but it's Lovecraftian roleplay. What could go wrong? Yes. And then we'll be back next Wednesday with Wild Blue in this world that we have just now detailed. And on Monday, Open Legend will be back. I'll be on their channel, and we'll be sort of co-broadcasting. And that's worth checking out. It's a really interesting system, very flexible. I perhaps shouldn't say that I prefer it to D&D, but it does a lot of the things that D&D does better, I think.
And when Brad posts
Oh!
all his viewers.
Yeah.
You're like disliker like system.
But D&D, come on.
I know, it's the flagship.
I just really like Fate. Fate is awesome.
Yeah. There's a lot I like about Fate. Like in the Eschaton game I'm running, there's definitely some hacks to it that I've been applying and toying with just to try and give a bit more variety beyond every advantage giving exactly a +2. It's instead anytime there's like an extended exchange, it takes the form of pretty much entirely of applying advantages, but those advantages sort of are the fiction rather than them doing a specific +2. It's like they, if you apply the not advantage. If you apply the aspect like tied up, then someone who's to whom that's been applied can't take normal actions. They can they could take their action to try and slip free of the bonds, but they can't just like attack someone with with that person getting a +2 to their defense. Anyway, it's we're still testing out the ramifications of it, but I find it interesting.
Yeah, let me know how that plays out.
Will do.
Interesting.
So I think that's going to be it. Thanks again, guys. Have a good one. Yes.
And thank you guys for playing.
Again, my pleasure.